Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to talk about biases in all research and everything in life. I'm a little sick and tired of it all. I've talked about these issues, particularly with dumbademia, all these elitist MIT, Harvard, Yale's, and all the other boobas people that seem to claim they think they are so great. And um, and this goes, of course, around the world where everybody thinks they are better than others. And this kind of bias really affects those seeking gnosis or truth. The only thing that has value is truth. Now, I remember, everyone I speak to, and they're particularly arrogant groups that think they know everything and that think that what they've done is so great. I mean, of course, these are the German Arabs who think everything they do is so perfect. When their trains don't run on time, they can't pick up their trash. And really, they're a race of boobs that come from Iran. I was speaking to a Chinese, of course, Chi Master, and he thinks that the Chinese came from Atlantis, and that's why they're so brilliant. Well, certainly the Chinese are brilliant in many areas and also kill more people than any other country in the world, and certainly have not turned their empire into anything other than a cesspool. They won't even fight the industries that produce energy since they have no energy. They want to burn coal and oil and fight for that as well. Yet we all know there's plenty of alternative energies out there that they refuse or are forced to refuse by the World Bank. So we have to understand where everything comes from. Now, all knowledge basically comes from three different countries as a general rule. Now, everybody has contributed depending on where they come from and the studies they've done, etc. But if we look in mass, it is basically the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, and the Chinese. Everything has come from there. Everything else is nothing but a sardine of fish. So the whole idea is that, yes, we have everybody from different places, so forth and so on, but we're talking generalities here. But, these biases have always reared their ugly head when you're doing any kind of serious research. And as a professional researcher for over 55 years, the author of 35 books, 5 courses, been on BBC, CNN, Art Bell Show, written many articles, been on many radio shows, and all of this stuff is what I've done over the years, including being an occult engineer, having a degree in the occult sciences, and also having a degree in subtle energy physics by the only the only institute that ever really knew anything about it, the Advanced Science Institute out of Palm Springs, which I was associated with. The only person to have a radionic store in the history of the planet. The only person to publish and translate all the grimoires from ancient time, because that's old science. So the list of accomplishments I've done are longer than anybody's on the planet. So, also reaching the state of what could be considered by the average person as Christ consciousness. So having this level of understanding and then researching from that and being disconnected from society in general, and that includes being disconnected from my cultural background, my racial background, my educational background, etc. Now, how many people can you say will do that? Well, none of it do it. They all fall back on whatever their personal preferences is. I'm so sick of it because it just shows me that your information that you give is worthless. Now, I've been saying for years, and now you can find it all over YouTube and the web. All you have to do is look under scientific fraud, and it's endless. I've been telling you for years the kind of corrupt scum that your basic dumbademia is. Your teachers, these cretin scum that have been plaguing our society for years with their lies, distrust, their own political opinions, their perverse sexuality. It just goes on and on and on. And of course, these people infect everything. Like the head of the Psychotronic Association in the United States is a high school gym teacher. Yeah, coach. So, yeah, you're a genius. Or the guy who writes a whole bunch of books on radionics, who's basically nothing more than a guy's a degree in computer science. That ain't close, baby. So the next time I want to learn golf, I'll go to the basketball coach and he can tell me how to play golf. That's about the comparison. So we run into all these things that are pretty sad and pathetic. And it goes with the reality of that we can't get any good information. When I get information from anybody, I try and look at their background. And this doesn't necessarily mean their education, because you don't have to necessarily be formal. Education is basically a negative. If you've got a PhD in something, it means that you had to kiss butt, lie, cheat, and conform to dogma to get that certificate. So that doesn't necessarily impress me whatsoever. It's always experience that matters. And since we moved away from experience having value, going over to certificates having value, the basic professionalism and the breakthroughs in science, medicine, and everything else has got down to a dribble. We have nothing. Science has not achieved anything. We still have the critical things that we need in society is very simple. We need to heal the sick, which we have is going to crush the entire world, particularly the stupid sick Americans who live on garbage foods. But the rest of the world ain't doing much better. The other thing we all need is cheap to free energy. We got to power everything. We need those electric lights, those toothbrushes, whatever it is that we live in this very electrical society. Now, science has failed us 100% on this. So I'm an educated guy. I got a degree. Hey, yes, snap my head. Oh, yeah. Does that prove anything? Well, what has your scientists or your area of degreeology, your little PhDs, what has that PhD in your particular area done? Hey, you trying to get smart with me, snap ahead? Well, the point is that the bottom line is that you've done nothing. Why should we give you any credit whatsoever? So the whole idea is we kind of want to be in the ballpark, do we or don't we? Because since that's a failure, we got to stay away from anybody who's accredited. Particularly from noted colleges that are a bunch of cons that basically, to get that little slip that says you're an official dummy, you basically had to sign, you had to kiss the bottom of the person giving it to you and the papers you're writing. So either they like you or don't like you, and they like you because you agree with them. So we get in this spiral. So this is what happens in Dumbadania, which I've pointed out for years, the corruption, the horribleness, the scum that is your police department, the scum that your fire department is, who lets Malibu homes burn to the ground. But remember, the LAPD fire department, we'll get that fire. As soon as it hits the ocean, it'll be out. Yeah, thank you. And of course, all the corrupt, rotten police and the military, who, by the way, now, the military has particularly failed us to the point that now we're going to lose any war we get in because our military doesn't have the technology. Hypersonic missiles, we ain't got none. None. And you can't defend against them. So those big, giant turds floating in the ocean with 3,000 men on them called aircraft carriers will sink like a toy ship that a BB gun's been shot at. Thank you, science. Thank you, you rotten military scum. Thank you, science. Yeah, but we got plenty of generals getting their $400 million, I should say, a year by working with the Defense Department companies to give our troops weapons that don't work or are backwards. Thank you, $1 trillion military. So the whole idea is, this is what I've been telling people about. But let's get into other things. And this is, of course, when you're ascending and when you're disconnecting from an evil, rotten society that you have to do to reach, of course, Christhead. And that is, of course, getting away from your cultural and religious biases. Now, when I get information from anybody, I always like to see exactly where they come from and what they're involved in. And I hate to say it, but there are great prejudices out there. There are a lot of societies that live in mysticism. And this mysticism clouds their thinking, particularly all of the Latins, No matter where they come from, whether it's Mexico down to Brazil, these people are steeped in mysticism and they're looking for the goofball cartoon religion answers to things because that's what they've been brought in all their life. This happened recently, of course, with the Bledsoe aliens, where they have contact with some sort of entities, whatever these demonic creatures are, because they're certainly not friendly or helpful, and they pull all sorts of games. But a person went in there. I forget her name. She's connected with it, but she all of a sudden finds out and gets all her answers. Of course, goes back to working with the Vatican, who is about as worthless as you can get. And why is it? Because she's a Hispanic Catholic. Well, bye-bye. Your opinions are worthless. I got a PhD in boob philosophy. It says right here on a piece of paper, I'm an official moron. How dare you? Well, that's right. So this is what we run into with everything that's pretty frightening. So anything written or coming from these countries, particularly Latin countries, are very doubtful. They believe in everything that pops in the sky as an alien, a spaceship, etc. And they give credit to, I forget that guy's name who found a puppet and then went to Mexico to say that he actually had contact with extraterrestrials and had pictures of these puppets. It was really pathetic. But he's a god there. Well, this is the problem. And we have this problem with a lot of people. The Asians tend to be very mystical as well, to a scary degree, where they'll spend $5 million to put a feng shui cannon on top of a bank building because that keeps the demons away. And as I said, this is a little bit ridiculous. Even symbolically, this must be ridiculous. If demons are chased away by little paper cardboard things, then it's really a fantasy. So the whole idea is this is keeping demonic spirits away is pretty low level and stupid. So we run into this with everything. And of course, let's not just blame these people. Let's get into all of the other fantasists that come from, quote, more Western worlds, where everybody, it's all from Jesus controls everything. Yeah. The world's in a pretty bad spot. Thank you, Jesus, for bringing us misery and disease and all the other things we have. Because if anybody's ruling, Satan is. And of course, we need another dead savior on a stick. I think we need somebody live that can do something. Oh, leave it to Jesus. We're not going to do anything. Grab your ankles and part it because we're turning, we're opening the cheeks for everybody. Because that's exactly what these little weirdo freaks do, as with all religious people. So if you're going to be steeped in a silly mysticism that has virtually no worth whatsoever, and you want to take every leaf that falls from its tree and give it some mystical aspects, well, you're the kind of lowlife that is destroying this world. So how do you know? Now, the one thing that we know from every single research field I've ever gotten into, that it's nothing but nonsense. We're at a point now that there's so much access to information. And I've recently read a few books and listened to a few lectures on people who are in the research field. And they said that nobody knows even how to read research reports. They don't know how to interpret them. And what do they mean? They're taking raw numbers and interpreting them badly. The information that is put out in those raw numbers is all corrupt because of the fact that if you don't produce as some sort of university and come up with some startling effects, you don't get the dinero, baby. Your department get no money because you came back with real information. Go make something up. And this goes on and on and on. And these teachers, which have absolutely no credibility whatsoever, and I've never met a teacher who was a decent person, period. They're all basically bad, corrupt people. That's the nature of teaching and human beings in general. So as we get into this, or people that are steeped in some sort of mysticism as their lifestyle, well, we just can't trust any of them. Then we get into all the greed, the avarice, the ego that is so big in the research community and all the other places. And what does it all add up to? What is all this nonsense? And now they're pushing AI down our throats. AI what? All the AI I've seen is mediocre at best. It's a big illusion. They're not going to have robots because you can't build robots, at least not humanoid or android type robots that can replace humans. It's virtually impossible. And nobody's ever been able to do this properly. The point is that AI, books done by AI, and most everything else done by AI is pretty inferior junk compared to a skilled human doing it, an expert in the field, including many of their books and everything. It's just all kind of trash. It's just low level fast food that fills your belly for whatever you need at that moment, but ultimately ain't good for you and really wasn't that tasty to begin with. So all of this is what's being foisted upon everyone in this reality to our detriment. Nothing is being achieved by it. And while we try and scream ahead in baseless garbage tech that's really done nothing for us except further enslave us, we ignore the fact of trying to develop ourselves as human beings. You can listen to some of the researchers. Now they're all taking the ayahuasca. They're all getting their brains fried by all this there's all this great hallucinogens. You know, if we didn't have the psilocybin, we would be living in a hole right now with monkeys eating our own poo. Huh, Terrence? Well, you couldn't even figure out how to take care of your own brain tumor, could you, boy? The spirits didn't talk to you, did they? Yeah, they said I was gonna die. Well, they were right for once. So this is the kind of nonsense that we run into from the bogus boobs, these buffoonery that seems to run this planet. And it's not at any levels that is we can consider primitive or uneducated or whatever you want to call things that people tend to disregard the genius of ancient texts. We're involved in a society of corrupt, rotten people who will do anything to make their ego bigger and to fill their wallets, and this never changes. So the bias in everything is horrendous. We now have conflicting information on everything. Now aspirin's not good. Well, is that right? Because I just watched 3 videos saying that aspirin cures cancer, or at least helps it dramatically. And this could be a major thing that everybody should be taking. And of course, it was good for your heart, and was so good that they stopped the trials when they were testing aspirin way before they were finished because they were getting amazing results. Oh no, it causes internal bleeding. Well, okay, well, I think, is that right? Instead of getting a heart attack, it thins the blood a lot. Yeah, well, this is the kind of nonsense. You get one report after another that says this is good, but this is bad. It goes on and on. The contradictory information that we're getting is frightening. And it comes down to the point that almost no research is in any way valuable past a baby step. It is kindergarten and learning about something. And how do you learn further from it? Well, you have to get down to the point of testing it in your own energy biofield and how it works in life. And unfortunately, this is the ultimate lesson of everything is, does it work for you? And ultimately, that's all that matters. You do have to go by some ballpark guidelines. And I do mean ballpark, big, giant ballpark, and not any kind of information past that. We have to assume there's some credibility there because we can't research everything. So if they talk about aspirin, and this has been for many, many years now, 50, 70, 80 years of its proper effects, and now all of a sudden they're coming out with different details. And were they paid off by the medical company? Well, you should be taking an expensive heart pill instead of taking this 2-cent aspirin. Well, that's the world we're in now. You can believe nothing of what you see, believe nothing of what you hear, and question all authority all the time. Don't believe anything. Find out how it works in your life. See how it works for you. Do your muscle testing. Use your pendulums. Use your scalar radionic machines. This is the key to everything. This will get your senses up to a level where you can understand on a deep consciousness level and on a physical level exactly what energy fields interact with you that work. This is the only way. All information now is valueless. And I watch these people who read right off these research reports, these corrupt doctors, these MDs you see on YouTube are just reading research reports so they can make more money off of their views. Not that they even understand what that means or know how to interpret it. So it's pretty sad. But if you can get views and you can make more money, after all, they need another Mercedes, don't you, docs? While your patients die in the streets. Yeah, when have you ever offered your time for free or at low cost? Never happened with me with a doctor. These are the scum of the world. And we have to stay away from them because they will poison you. They will lie to you. And this is the way of the world in general. We're living in the most evilest satanic reality that we could possibly be in, where people even accept Satanism as being good and nice and don't find any problem with it. And of course, most of them are Christians who are too big cowards to fight for anything. They fight for nothing. They grab their ankles and they spread for every demon that comes by. That's the reality of people who are involved in religion in general. It's really sad that we get involved in every single level of everything's a horrible corruption. So we need to understand this and embrace the fact of what's going on and stop depending on others to know anything. You get any kind of advice, whether it's legal, medical, or anything else, you need to check it and double check it, because most likely these people have no idea what they're doing. You're nothing but money to them that they want to stick in their cash register, and they don't care whether you're in pain for the rest of your life. Surgeries are done every day that leave people crippled so doctors can make money from them. And then they leave you to die in pain, and they won't even give you pain medication so you can survive life. That's the world you're in. Doctors are murdering people every day in hospitals for nothing more than profit, or even for profit they get from criminals that they work with that pay them to kill you on the operating table because they don't like you. That's the real world, people. Wake up to it. Empower yourself and understand what's going on. There are tools you can use to push your will on the world, to take care of yourself, and it's out there and available. Make sure you check into it. Anybody that doesn't have a scalar radionic machine in this day and age is a complete and total fool. Get into manifesting technologies. Manifest high states of consciousness, high states of well-being, high states of wealth. You can manifest that with empowering what you're doing in life. That's the key to it all. And don't be listening to anybody else. The best thing you do is not use any of this stuff. And we have no idea what works, what doesn't work by so-called research papers, which are nothing more than fraud. And if they're not fraud, they're done by idiots who have no idea what they're doing. And of course, that they take that information, you use it in good faith, and it destroys you. Mark these words, people. Until next time.